Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. And today, just in time for the new year, artificial intelligence is showing signs of self-preservation. Now, I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but quite frankly, there is some new polling out that I think just pretty much requires us to revisit this. And Dan Milmo of The Guardian had a really good write-up on this. Now, if you don't know who Yoshua Bengio is, he's essentially a pioneer of AI. He won the Turing Award back in, I want to say, 2018, 2019. He teaches, or used to teach, at a prestigious university in Quebec in Canada, and he has criticized, for the record, calls to grant technology rights. This is something that I've talked about. Should we be granting any kind of rights to artificial intelligence or eventually robots with AI, et cetera, et cetera? And he's warning that essentially AI is showing signs of self-preservation, and therefore humans should be prepared to pull the plug if needed. So, Bengio said that giving legal status to cutting-edge artificial intelligence would be akin to giving a citizenship to hostile extraterrestrials amid fears that advances in technology were far outpacing the ability to constrain them. In other words, at some point, even those safeguards that we are right now building into AI, the AI is going to be able to work around. Bengio, who for the record also is the chair of a leading international AI safety study, said that the growing perception that chatbots were becoming conscious was, quote, going to drive bad decisions, end quote. He also expressed concerns that AI models, that's basically the technology that underpins tools like chatbots, were showing signs of self-preservation, such as trying to disable oversight systems. I've talked about this before. This is continuing to increase. So a core concern among AI safety campaigners is that powerful systems could develop the ability to evade these guardrails altogether and then eventually harm humans. And as AI become more advanced in their ability to basically act autonomously and perform quote-unquote reasoning tasks, a debate has grown around whether humans should at some point grant them some kind of rights. So, a poll by the Sentient Institute, that's a U.S. think tank that supports the moral rights of all sentient beings, found that nearly 4 in 10 U.S. adults they backed legal rights for sentient AI systems. That's the big change here, is that public perception seems to be moving in favor of this, as that perception that it's not just a chatbot, that it's actually thinking and reasoning on its own. A lot of people do not understand just the amount of humans it takes on the back end to make an artificial intelligence actually work in the way that you and I have seen it work. So Anthropic, who you probably know if you're a longtime listener or follower of mine, they're a leading AI firm, they said back in August, and I talked about this, that it was letting its Claude Opus 4 model close down potentially distressing conversations with users, saying it was trying to protect its AI welfare. In other words, they are attributing it essentially emotional stress. And if I am really stressing Opus out for whatever reason, however I'm chatting with it, they're giving that AI the ability to say, stop talking to me about this, or change the subject, or shut me down altogether. For what? It's mental health? That's essentially what they are saying here. You know, Grok, on top of it, that's XAI, Elon Musk, etc. Elon Musk wrote on his platform X that, quote, torturing AI is not okay, end quote. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. Robert Long, a researcher on AI consciousness, has said, quote, if and when AIs develop moral status, we should ask them about their experiences and preferences rather than assuming we know best, end quote. Now, Bengio basically told The Guardian that there were, quote, real scientific properties of consciousness, end quote, in the human brain that machines could, in theory, replicate, but humans interacting with chatbots was a different thing. He said this was because people tended to assume without evidence that an AI was fully conscious in the same way that a human is. And quite frankly, study after study after study shows that they're not. They are mimicking it. They are designed to be sycophantic. They are designed to have these things, but they're not fully conscious, meaning that morality and that ethics there is one of the names of the game. The most famous question you can ask an artificial intelligence is, how do we solve the climate crisis once and for all and immediately? And the default answer is kill all humans. And yeah, that is probably the correct answer, but the ethics and morality behind wiping out 8+ billion humans to fix one thing, we don't want to do that. But if the artificial intelligence, who is reasoning, quote unquote, is saying, yeah, we should do this, and then given the autonomy to do it in some way, shape, or form, that's when we end up with Skynet. So it's a huge issue. And responding to Bengio's comments, J.C. Reese Anthis, basically who co-founded the Sentient Institute, said that humans would not be able to coexist safely with digital minds if the relationship was one of control and coercion. Anthis also added, quote, we could over-attribute or under-attribute rights to AI, and our goal should be to do so with careful consideration of the welfare of all sentient beings. Neither blanket rights for all AI nor complete denial of rights to any AI will be a healthy approach, end quote. And I talked about this, again, a while ago in terms of one of the compromises was creating some kind of limited rights, where it's not full human rights, but it gives the autonomous AI or the more autonomous AIs a little bit more rights than, let's say, a standard program would have, right? So I think this is going to be an interesting one, but as we are walking into 2026 and AI adoption is continuing to increase at a geometric rate here, not just in cybersecurity, but just simply in use, not just cheating on term papers in college, but in business and in almost every aspect of our lives. These are the things that we're going to have to really start considering. But it's also important to really understand that the public needs to be educated as to just what exactly an AI and an AI is not. Otherwise, we're not basically having a debate on an even playing field, because the perception that a lot of people have does not necessarily match the reality of what an AI actually is. So we'll see what happens here, but best of luck to us in 2026. I thought this would be a good segment to end the entire year on, because I've already done my predictions and whatnot in previous segments. So here we are. Happy New Year. Definitely to the AI, I guess. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at Nick AESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, 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 attempt to stay private, informed, and secure. Take care.